Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. We have a few agendas and a few meetings this evening, so we'll get right into it. Item 1, roll call. Everyone except for Conseiller Brisson is not here. Item 2, adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda is presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Associé. All those in favor? Carried. Item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest. See none. Item 4A, public meetings hearings. Planning Act requirement under Section 26.3, updating official plan, report PD 30-2017. Monsieur Le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Donc, ce soir, on procède avec la réunion publique pour la présentation de l'ébauche du plan officiel des comtés unis de Prescott-Russell, du township de Russell, je m'excuse. Donc, j'ai préparé, dans le fond, un résumé avec une présentation au tableau pour montrer exactement qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans le rapport. Donc, la première présentation, the first presentation, will basically just be the oversight of the process of where we are and what's the next steps, and then we'll go through the major and the minor changes that are proposed as in the official plan that we're presenting in front of you tonight. So basically, as you can see on the slide here, this process started in July 2015, so it's been an ongoing process since the summer of 2015. We had 2 public open houses. One was in August of 2016 and the other one was held in April of 2017. We are now at the special meeting of council, so this is a statutory public meeting to advise council that we're proceeding with the OP review. The next steps, as we could see on this chart, is the council OP review, so we'll have a second public meeting on June 7th, and that public meeting is basically to review the OPA from the County of Prescott-Russell. So our official plan is amending the county official plan, so therefore we need to apply for an amendment at their level, and the public meeting on June 7th is to review their OP meeting. We're looking at the county to approve the official plan amendment from the county official plan on June 14. After that, there's an appeal period, and then we'll seek a special council of meeting in July to adopt our new official plan, and therefore we'll have the 20-day appeal period. So there's still a couple of steps, as you could see. The next one, as I just mentioned, after tonight is the June 7 meeting. After tonight's meeting, obviously there's going to be some amendments to the draft that is being proposed tonight. And all of the amendments that are going to be discussed here tonight will be on our website, available 20 days prior to the June 7 meeting. Therefore, on this Thursday, all of the proposed documents will be available on our website, reflecting the change that we're going to talk about tonight. So basically, this is just to explain what is an official plan. So basically, the official plan needs to be in conformity with the provincial policy statement that were adopted in 2014. They need to be in conformity with the county official plan that was also adopted in 2016. And under our official plan, we have our zoning bylaw. So basically, the process of reviewing our official plan was due because it needs to be redone every 5 years based on the old policies. And it was adopted in 2010, so we started our OP process review because it had been 5 years. And in the meantime, the PPS changed in 2014, and the county official plan also changed in 2016. So we had to be in conformity with those documents. So basically, the draft that you're seeing in front of you tonight are to reflect those changes. So as part of this OP review, there was a draft background report that is also available on our website for review. And basically, as part of this report, we just enumerate the documents that were reviewed to be included in our official plan. So basically, our draft official plan, our existing official plan, the provincial policy, the master plan for infrastructure was also taken into consideration. The master plan for Parks and Rec was taken into consideration. The Heritage District study that was conducted in 2015 was also reviewed. And the Community Improvement Plan, so the CIP, were all documents that were taken into consideration to ensure that they're conform to the proposed official plan that is in front of you tonight. So I don't know if you want me to switch French and English or...
It's up to you, Madam.
All right. So the next slide, as you can see, are... Just going to get there. So these are the key changes for the official plan that we are proposing. So as part of this official plan, we completed a comprehensive review pour accommoder les changements et la demande qu'il y avait au niveau de l'industriel et de la demande au niveau du commercial. Those are the lands that were evaluated by the agrologists and justified in the Emerson report. So I'll just, so on the right corner here, I don't know, it's the right, yeah. So you see those are, the A and the B are already adjoining the 417 Industrial Park. Those are used for crop at the moment. And they are presently designated as trade and industry. So we were suggesting, and we are still suggesting, to remove those property out of the trade and industry designation to put them back as ag land. At the bottom here, those are the property that we are looking or seeking council direction to designate as trade and industry. So right now they are designated as ag land, and we are proposing to changing as trade and industry. And at the bottom right, those are properties that are presently designated as trade and industry that we are proposing to change to ag land. So those are all the properties that have been part of the official plan review since the beginning. They have been reviewed by the agrologist report, which is consists of the employment land justification report that was also submitted at the county level for review.
And essentially we're talking about roughly the same amount of land?
Yeah, so on the next slide you could, so basically what we're proposing to propose employment to ag, we're looking at 122 acres. And what we're proposing to ag to employment is 125. So it's basically, we're not expanding the boundary limits to add more employment zone. We remove some to add more, and it's basically the same acreage. We also had to, just for your information, when we did that exercise, we also had to consider the constraints. So basically, if one of those property there was a stream, the constraint of 30 meters on each side had to take into account to not have basically it's a net gain, so it's basically the same acreage for same acreage, counting those constraints total. So basically this slide is just to go of the overview changes that are in the official plan that are being proposed. Donc, au niveau de la densification, le nouvel objectif de 15% pour les unités résidentielles qui sont créées à travers l'intensification ou le redéveloppement. On a ajouté des provisions au niveau des pavillons jardins, donc garden suites are more and more in demand, so we didn't have anything in our current official plan, and based on the provincial policy, we did add some provision to include garden suite and secondary dwelling units. We also included des développements au niveau du résidentiel, donc on a mis à jour les densités conformément aux modifications des densités qu'il y avait eu au niveau du plan ciel des comtés unis de Prescott-Russell, donc les ajustements au niveau des densités dans notre plan a dû s'en suivre. Il y a eu des nouvelles typologies au niveau des lignes directrices, au niveau des parcs Donc, en collaboration avec Mme Guittard, on a mis des nouvelles sections au niveau de la définition des parcs passifs, des parcs actifs. Au niveau des village core, on a établi des nouvelles designs urbains au niveau des nouvelles lignes directrices pour justement refléter ce qu'on avait à l'intérieur de notre plan communautaire. Donc, everything that was part of our CIP was introduced as part of our official plan to be consistent. Au niveau du parc industriel, on a inclus des nouvelles politiques ajustées au niveau des usages qui sont permis dans les zones avec les services municipaux. Donc, at the moment, we didn't have any provision for different type of uses that would be permitted if we would bring services to the 417. So those changes were addressed as part of the official plan. And we also had provisions au niveau des sources, des zones des ressources agrégats minéraux. Donc, encore, pour être conforme aux nouvelles zones et aux nouvelles dispositions des comtés unis Prescott-Russell, nous avons dû faire des ajustements au niveau de notre plan ciel. We also had changes in the municipal services section, so to update the existing servicing and clarify servicing requirements for new development. There was an update on stormwater management requirements, so in order to reflect provisions of South Nation conservation and everything else that was introduced. Au niveau des transports, il y a eu des politiques additionnelles pour, par exemple, des développements près de l'autoroute 417, les exigences au niveau du ministère des Transports qui ont été reflétées dans le nouveau plan ciel. Au niveau du patrimoine naturel, donc il y a eu des politiques additionnelles aussi concernant l'importance des éléments et des systèmes patrimoniaux, de la protection des terres adjacentes. Donc, tout ça, c'est pour rester en conformité avec le plan ciel, puis d'être plus clair au niveau des politiques qu'on avait déjà. We also included cultural heritage resource. So policy was added to recognize the importance of the, je ne suis pas capable de dire ce mot en anglais, des ressources archéologiques et d'assurer que toutes les ressources patrimoniales sont protégées. Donc, ça aussi, c'est des nouveaux prérequis de la province. Au niveau de la section de la mise en œuvre, donc au niveau de notre plan ciel et les règlements de zonage, pour les délais des permis et des appels et des choses comme ça, donc pour être encore plus conforme au plan ciel des comtés. Puis on a aussi ajusté notre plan ciel au niveau de le CIP qui a été adopté après notre plan ciel en ce moment, donc pour refléter ces changements-là. So the next step, so again, this is just to inform that this public meeting was advertised as per the requirements of the Act. So it was advertised in the newspaper 3 weeks in a row, 30 days in advance. We also had a lot of public communication with the public, and there was 2 open house, and every open house there was comment sheet that we'll talk about in the next meeting. So we had a lot of input. The public meeting were really successful, and those inputs are part of the second part of that meeting.
C'est tout, Madame Tremblay?
Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Question au nom du Conseil? Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand how we're splitting up the 2 meetings tonight. Because I'm looking at this meeting saying there's a resolution on this meeting that says to direct staff regarding the official plan. But then the next meeting we have an open house with questions on the official plan. So we're going to approve the official plan, but then or not approve it, but approve or give direction on something without having heard the other piece. I just want to make sure I understand how we're doing this.
Yeah, so
It's in regards to the process?
yeah, so the new process is that technically this meeting should have been done at the beginning of the process. Basically, this one is just giving the administration the right to proceed with the review of the OP. So basically, that's what the requirements of the Act says. Most of the municipalities don't do those, and it's a new requirement, so our consultant was not really familiar with it, so that's why it's been done in the past, that it's just basically to give the administration the right to proceed with the review of the OP that we have been doing for the last 2 years. So that's the first part of the meeting. To be a statutory public meeting, and Madame la Caméra, you could correct me if I'm right, because we had the discussion with the consultant, it needs to be a separate meeting to be statutory public meeting, and that's why we're proceeding afterwards with the open house meeting.
Okay, so when does council actually endorse the official plan then?
So it's gonna be done in July, only once the OPA from the county is approved.
Okay, so we're not approving
No.
the official plan tonight?
No, it's just
Okay.
to proceed with the process, and that's the first part of the meeting. The second part of the other part of the meeting is to discuss and have direction of council, some of the comments that were made, to give us direction to finalize the draft OP.
Okay, I think there might have been confusion to that point with some people, so I wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that we clarified that for
thanks for
tonight.
clarifying.
I do have another.
Go ahead.
With regards to, and I was trying to follow along on the PowerPoint, but my eyes can't see that far sometimes. In terms of the call it the bike path extension north,
Yeah.
what's the process to request that piece be taken out if it hasn't already?
That will be, I believe, in the next meeting, Madame Tremblay.
Yeah,
That's the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on the process, Conseiller Associé?
Yeah, I couldn't access those slides, so I'm just curious what property was going from agricultural to trade and industry exactly.
so which one? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
You said there was one going from ag back to trade and industry,
Yeah.
122 acres.
Yeah.
I want to know where that is.
It's present on the side.
I don't have that.
No, but I'm asking
Oh,
Maddie to
sorry.
put it on
So that's in the industrial park,
Yeah.
the 417, the industrial park.
So, those property here at the,
In the pink.
identify in yellow, so all those 4 maps that are the property are yellow. So those are to be from trade and industry put back to ag. So I don't know if you want me to go one by
No,
one.
no,
or-
it was not the ones going back to ag.
Okay,
It was the
so
ones
it's
going
the-
from ag to.
So the pink one, so on, I don't know where the mouse is, but those 2 properties that are, yeah, so
Bottom
those
left.
ones, so C and F are those 2 properties that are presently ag and that we're proposing to put to trade and industry employment zones.
Okay, and that's at the 417 also.
So there's one, the first one is at the 417, and the other one is at the corner of Saint Guillaume and Route 300.
Right behind the commercial park here. Councillor Simon?
Merci. I'm just wondering, make sure I understand correctly, for all those changes that we're making, we didn't do a comprehensive review.
We did, yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we can justify it if ever there's anything or if it's appealed.
Yeah, so that the entire process was part of the comprehensive review.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Conseiller Brisson?
Désolé du retard. C'était juste pour mentionner que j'avais une déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire pour ce sujet, parce que ça affecte mes terrains.
OK, merci, Monsieur Buisson. Ça va être noté dans une minute. Madame Caméra. Other questions, comments? No? Anything to add, Madame Tremblay? At this point in time, we'll ask a question period on the meeting, in this case on the process. So if anybody has questions, you can come up to the lectern and ask questions in regards to the process. I see none at this point. We'll move on. Yeah. State your name, address for the record, please.
Whitney McNally, 1073 Concession Street. I think it's about the process. When we asked if there was a comprehensive review just there, that was strictly on the trade lands and not on the residential lands. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madame
Yes,
Tremblay?
that's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So the only thing I'm allowed to ask is on the process
At this point in
of
time.
Okay.
At the next meeting, then it's fair game for a lot of stuff.
The next meeting tonight or the
Yes,
next meeting?
in like
Okay.
a couple minutes.
But I have a supplementary.
Yeah, Madame Tremblay?
The comprehensive review was done for, like the Hampton report did consider residential, But when we reviewed with the agrologist report and everything else, it was just to evaluate those property that were from ag to trade. So we didn't look at anything because the Henson report did mention that we had sufficient land. So basically, we did a full comprehensive review, and based on the answer of Henson report, we didn't pursue evaluating those properties for residential lands.
Okay. Councillor Simon?
So there wasn't any changes based, because we didn't have the comprehensive review for residential or anything, so we can't touch that, right?
Madame Tremblay?
So like I mentioned, the Henson report is one part of a comprehensive review, and in that part,
And that was enough.
that was enough for us to not pursue any residential component. So there's no land that was evaluated for the agrologist report for switching from residential one part to the other part.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're comfortable if ever it is appealed or if something happens, that we're covered.
Yeah.
Councillor Associate?
One other question. The process of going from, is this prime agricultural land to trade? Yes.
Madame Tremblay?
And so we have difficulty going from agricultural to residential, but it's okay to go from agricultural to trade. That's what my question is.
Madame Tremblay?
So we never said that it was a problem to go from from ag to res. It was not evaluated, so it was not pursued as an evaluation as part of the agrologist report. So the same exercise could be done. It wasn't done at that point.
Okay, miss.
Councillor Simon?
I guess this is about the process. I saw we had comments submitted, and I see we pretty much included everything in there, down right to the, some of them, you know, that were bullet points from here, so that's the requirement. I'm just wondering why the initial draft before, just before the meeting, there was one submission that there was only one paragraph submitted. So just wondering what happened there. I appreciate that now we have the answers to those questions. I just want to know what happened.
Madame Tremblay?
So basically the way that it worked is that all the comment sheets were submitted to the consultant, and the consultant was responsible to prepare those comments. And I wasn't here on Friday, didn't see the last table comment, and then it's today that I realized that the full submission was not part of the table comment. That's why it's been revised and resubmitted. I understand that the answers are kind of last minute, but that's why it was not included as part of the full table.
Okay, so it wasn't us, it was the consultant that didn't include all of the
Exactly,
comments.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No questions? No? Councillor Associate?
So every question was addressed then, like from all the public? Or did we just sort of skip some? That's what I'm curious about. Like I want to make sure because, you know, I was even curious about when it said didn't need to be addressed. So I was curious who decides that a question doesn't need to be addressed.
That will actually be part of the next meeting discussion, Madame
Okay,
Tremblay? Yeah.
all right.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Lorraine?
I just want to ask the question that if we have a question that's asked in the next meeting that has to do with, because we don't know if it's to this meeting or that meeting, that it will still be answered in the next meeting if it has to do with the process.
I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay. So I'm going to resume next.
Okay. Resolutions, item 6, the council received report PD 30-2017 dated May 15, 2017, and that council direct the administration to update the official plan as per section 26.3 of the Planning Act. Need a mover and a seconder? Moved by Conseiller Simon, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2017-45 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of Corporation Township of Russell at special council meeting held on May 15, 2017, part 1, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Simon. All those in favor? Carried. Next meeting is held right now. We are adjourned from part 1. Part 2, roll call. All members of council are here and accounted for. Adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. A mover and a seconder. Conseiller Lorrain, Conseillère Sauvautier. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Conseiller Brisson.
Pareil comme l'autre réunion, ça affecte de mes heures. Ça fait que j'ai eu un net.
Okay, merci beaucoup, Monsieur Brisson. Item 4, public meetings, hearings. Item A, public open house as per the requirement of Section 1716 of the Planning Act. Official plan review, report PD 34-2017. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay.
Donc, rebonsoir. Donc, la deuxième partie de la rencontre, c'est vraiment pour discuter des commentaires, so to discuss comments that were received as part of the process. So, I just want to mention that this process is a really, really long process. As part of the Planning Act, we do have to send all of the draft documents, notices to a lot of organization. So as you can see, as part of the table comments, we did receive some comments from Enbridge, Hydro. Some of them didn't reply to those comments, but the ministry, the county of Prescott-Russell are part of the circulation that we do have to circulate. So this table is really handy because we worked with it since the beginning, so it was a compilation of all the comments that were received. So most of the comments were addressed. As part as you can see in the table, there's some section that had to be amended. Those amendments will be part of the draft that would be available as soon as the 18th, so next Thursday. So if you look at the draft that is on the website right now, you may not see those changes, but it will be done and it will be available on the 18th, reflecting those that are saying here section that needs to be amended based on the comments that were received. So I want to, so you've received just a new section, a new table that was reviewed based on the comments that we received, and they were in your so they were in your package in blue. They're no page. I'm so sorry about that. I should have. So the first one is the April 27th email that was received. So unless there's other specific questions, I've identified some that we were seeking council direction on. The other ones were kind of respond or they didn't need any comments or no change to the official plan. So basically the comments that we were talking about, the email that was received on April 21st is the extension of the bike trail that was connected to the potential trail from Ottawa. So, je sais pas si tu peux mettre la PowerPoint presentation. So what I've shown on those maps is the proposed that were, so the first slide. So basically the person that made that comment was saying that we don't own it, so why connect to those? So basically what we've looked today is that the City of Ottawa Transportation Master Plan, and it was identified that there's a limited connection at this point. So basically we're proposing to amend the Schedule B of the transportation, so the next slide, to reflect those changes. So basically we don't have a lot of help here, like to be able to do nice maps. But basically, we're proposing to remove, so the connection, on peut zoomer, Marie, sur la carte qui est la plus à gauche, où il y a les lignes roses. Ouais. So, we're proposing to remove everything that there's an X yellow. So all the red lines that were identified as a potential connection to the City of Ottawa trails that are located completely west of the village are the connection trail, and the arrows that were connected to the City of Ottawa, that will be removed. We're also proposing to remove the dashed line green that was identified as a potential trail that would address that comment. So basically, the only connection to the city of Ottawa that will keep is it's the one at the north, and the one that is going towards the village of Limoges. So the arrow. The rest will be removed. There's no need based on the City of Ottawa transportation plan.
And the ones that are remaining are on public properties? Or are they private?
We own them.
Okay.
So the ones that is the full green line, we own those property.
Mhm.
The one that is being removed is the ones that we didn't own and they were identified as potential trail.
And that's the one that the resident asked to have removed?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So Schedule B will be removed, and there's, there was another comment that were made by the committee, the
Parks and Rec Committee?
Parks and Rec Committee, and were also identified in blue. And those are basically to show, they're shown in pink. So those are the proposed link that they were asking. So if you could refer again to those maps, those are the links. So we were talking about, instead of having the dash line connecting through the City of Ottawa, there was a connection that was talking about to go to Hamilton, so to have that loop. There's some proposed connection that were identified in the by the Park and Recs that we were discussing with Madame Guitard today, that we will have to sit with them and see exactly what they were talking about, because some of them are difficult to see on the plan, but we have no problem to amend the schedule to reflect their comments.
Okay. Councillor Simard and Councillor Lorrain.
Juste une question pour
Oui.
la fitness, le recreation.
Mhm.
C'est juste un petit clean-up un peu de ce qu'on n'appartenait pas, pour pas donner l'impression que on s'en va cette direction-là, même si on n'appartient pas les terrains. OK.
C'est plus, même si on les appartient pas, c'est du bon planning de planifier à long terme. C'est juste que là, on s'est aperçu, je ne sais pas si entre le 2009, le plan qui avait été adopté avec ces connexions-là, ça fait plus de sens, parce qu'en regardant du côté de la ville d'Ottawa, il n'y a pas de connexions qui sont proposées à cet endroit-là.
OK.
Fait que c'est pas une question de l'appartenir ou pas, je pense que c'est du bon planning de le faire, même si on l'appartient pas. Mais dans ce cas-là, ça faisait pas de sens.
OK. Parce que nous, on n'était pas consistant avec l'autre.
Avec
plan.
les connexions que d'autres
C'est juste
font.
un clean-up.
C'est ça.
OK. Fait que ça, c'est très bon. Merci.
Conseiller Lorrain?
So, just so I'm clear,
Mhm.
we're getting rid of the plan that we had to go basically back down the New York Central Trail back to Ottawa.
Exactly.
Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
We're keeping this one here, because this is the one that we own,
That we're paving this
that
year?
we're paving this year. And
Yeah.
instead of connecting through here, we're proposing to basically
Go down Hamilton?
go down Hamilton.
Yeah, the pink.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the other link that was proposed by the rec committee,
Okay.
that we're proposing to add. And there's other link too that we're discussed with the Parks and Rec committee to have some sort of a loop at the Parc Richelieu.
What roads is that pink going down south?
This one is the
Edie and Wade?
Wade and Edie Road.
Wade
Yeah,
to
McLaren.
McLaren?
Very-
Okay.
So just to clarify, Madame Tremblay, the sections in purple, we're not saying we're doing it, it's proper planning
To plan ahead.
to plan ahead so that it's in the official plan if ever council at the time decides to go that route.
The process of having this as part of your planning documents is, let's say that somebody would have a severance down the line, and we would have this as an argument that we could request it at that point. Or if there's a process on the way, or there's a new subdivision, then this would have been identified that we would have the right to request the builder at this point to have those as trails.
No questions on these points? No? Je peux continuer, Madame Tremblay?
So, if we could go back to the table, sorry. So the other comments were the one that we received and the one that was not full part of the table, which I apologize for, and it's the May 1 email. So basically, I don't know if you had you received the email, or if members of council did receive the full email with the, or do you want me to go through it, or how do, okay,
I'll
so
go through.
basically those owner are the owner of a 38 acre,
Okay.
which is located north of the subdivision owned by Corvinelli and east of the subdivision owned by Mélanie Construction. So
Okay.
it's facing Edie Road. Basically, their statement is saying that they feel that this land should be inside the village boundary to allow for residential development. And they bring a lot of good points in their email. Basically, one of this, they're bringing lands that the council could review to remove out of the boundary to be able to add their property. There's also points that are bringing forward. I'm trying to get all of this together, but the other points are talking about the lot adjustment that were done based on the subdivision that were pre-approved. That if we were to take all of those lots that are outside the village boundary, if you were to take them in, then it would accelerate the timing of when their land could be in compared to what's being proposed in Emerson report. And there was also points that were submitted about the one of the subdivision that was draft approved upon is located in the ag land compared to inside the boundary. So the answer that I will provide to council, and I like I said, I resume the points, is that what we've discussed about earlier is that this needs to be done as a comprehensive review process. As I mentioned, the Emerson report did touch on the residential component on it, and my answer is basically what was said in the Emerson report is that there's sufficient land to accommodate. So the evaluation for residential potential growth was done as part of the review conducted by Hampson based on the permitted density for residential development contained in the Township of Russell official plan. The current designation vacant land supply could accommodate more than 5,000 additional units. So basically what we have inside our boundaries of Russell, Embrun, Limoges, could accommodate based on the density that we allow to 5,000 additional units. Our official plan right now with the proposed changes that we're saying is that that we could project the growth to 56% over the 20 years. So that means we would have to have 2,980 new homes. So we're more than enough for what we have right now inside our boundary. So basically what I'm saying is that if we want to do that switch, we need to take away some of the existing designation inside the residential villages to be able to remove 38, the same as what we've done for the commercial and employment land. So it needs to be same acreage for same acreage. So that means we would have to take away some of the existing designation to be able to, and we won't be able to justify any increase in boundary. So it needs to be a swap of land. So basically that's the first part of my answer.
So essentially you're saying to give designation to this parcel of land, we'd have to take 38 acres out of existing residential land to do the swap.
And what I'm saying also in my answer is that doing that exercise, it doesn't mean that it's going to be their property compared to another property. Because if we do the full exercise, we need to evaluate all of the potential property that could be redesignated for residential purposes. So based on that comprehensive review, you need to evaluate all of the property with the condition of soil, how you're going to service it, and is it serviceable. So the same exercise that we've just done for the commercial property needs to be done to evaluate all of the potential property that could be redesignated residential.
Correct. And you just said that in the next 20 years, we're looking at approximately 2,900 units
of growth,
and we currently have 5,000 units of
capacity.
Councillor Small?
I just want to make sure I understand the process. For the comprehensive review that would have to be done for that's further down the road, and so then I think for that property, let's say it is evaluated that it has to be, it can be swapped. That would be at the next official plan in another 10 years, right?
So your correct, in a sense that the law just changed and now it's 10 years. But after a discussion, and this is part of, I don't know if you want me to go through my other points that were brought forward and the answer that I got, but basically, we all know what we're looking at, and I had a discussion with the counties this afternoon, and basically because the county official plan was adopted before the new requirements of the 10 years, this is part of the good news, if it could be a good news. So basically they're not regulated by that 10 years. So the county official plan will be updated in 2020 and 21. So that means if we feel that we have the need at that point to review because we're growing faster than expected as part of the AMSID report, we could have our review done at the same time. So it could be done before the 10 years, so that's a good part of the solution. And the other recommendation that I would bring forward to council is that as part of the 2009 official plan that we have at the moment, there's a special study area that was identified, so we could do the same. So I would suggest at this point to council to identify those areas that we would feel in 2020 and 21 that would be more suitable for growth for residential, and identify them as part of our official plan as special study area. Therefore, it would commit ourselves to, when we see that growth coming, then these are the sector that we would increase the boundary villages. Therefore, it wouldn't put any of us in a position that we would have to remove some of the designation that are already existing, but we would wait for that 2021 review county and then have those areas already identified and then proceed with it if there's a need, because we don't know the growth, right? It's expected, but if it grows faster than what expected, we could at that point.
Okay, the special study area would be similar to the special study area we had behind the commercial park here,
Yeah.
which we're looking to include in this official plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Small?
Well, I don't know how the others feel, but I think we need a comprehensive review before making other changes and the changes, so.
What, Madame Tremblay, a comprehensive review on the residential side would delay us how long in the process?
I would say a year.
Okay.
So if that's where I was seeking council direction. Because if we wait a year before this is adopted, that means every land swap that we're trying to achieve with the commercial component of it would be
finished. It would be put on hold.
It would be put on hold until
For a year.
until everything is adopted.
Yeah. And currently we're selling our industrial land in the 417
Yeah.
Park Lake in Spain Shoal.
Yeah.
And we have how much left?
30,
30. How many have we sold in the last couple of years?
at least 12.
12.
12 businesses, so I would say times.
We've sold
at least 200.
200 acres. So we risk, by delaying this process a year, we risk slowing down our economic growth as far as business goes. Councillor Lorraine?
Yeah, I guess the other thing that is at risk is for the people who own those lands to do something else with them, right? They could pull out of wanting to make the switch. Is that an option, or do we have that concern as well?
That's always a possibility.
I didn't understand the question.
If the people that are agreeing, if you will, right now to the land designation swaps could always change their mind.
Yeah.
And how would this whole special study area process work? Would council get a report to pass a resolution to identify certain lands to be studied in 5 years? Can you just explain that process so I can make sure I understand?
So the department would have to sit with the infrastructure department and Madame Guittard to make sure that, as part of my answer, and I know it was last minute, but when you do a comprehensive review, I've mentioned all of what you need to look, right? First part, you need to have sufficient growth to justify the swap that you're doing. So now we know that answer because you need to make sure that the property that we're suggesting to add or to remove that you're able to service them with water and sewer, and how much would it cost? So basically, we would have to evaluate all of the property that we think, and then bring you a recommendation to say, we are recommending this one because of this, and we're not recommending this one because of that. So obviously, it needs to be part of this process, and to be honest, the only reason why we were able to justify the increase that we're doing here is because it was identified as part of the special study area of 2009. So basically, we were upfront in 2009 saying, next time, this is what we're gonna do, and I would suggest that this would be the best process at this point.
OK, merci Madame Tremblay. D'autres questions, membres du conseil à ce point-ci? Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah. So as part of this, we talked about the fact that we've got sufficient residential land for 20 years, we'll say. We have 55,000 potential units, right? Or whatever we want to call them. How do we protect ourselves against the increase in units by, and I don't know what the proper word is, but the extension of the boundaries due to subdivisions, whether that's called creeping or something like that, into the past the boundaries that are creating additional units. And I know we had a conversation about it. I don't know if you have the number or not, but how many extra units that are being gained or increased with just the current batch of extension, and how do we stop, or how do we prevent additional, because if those keep building up and building up and building up, then nobody's land that wants to be developed at any point in time to extend the boundaries are going to qualify, because we're going to keep growing that way instead of growing in different sections, if you understand what I mean.
Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay?
So I prepared because so I've just shown what we're talking about and that was part of the submission that we received on the May 1st email. So basically, just to overview, and what we're talking about is, at the moment, and it's been like this forever, the county official plan does have, as part of the administration part of their county official plan, and we do have the same provision that says exactly, and it's part of your answer that you see in it says the boundary of land use designation established by this plan, Schedule A, which is where our boundary limits are identified as part of the county official plan. It says that are intended to be approximate and shall be considered as absolute only when they coincide with roads, rail line, rivers, lines shown in an implementing zoning bylaw or other clearly defined physical feature. Where the land use designation boundary are considered as approximate, amendments to this plan will not be required in order to make minor adjustment. They don't define minor adjustment, so it's left to council's decision. Because it says that the boundary provide that a general intent of the purpose of the plan are maintained. Such minor adjustments shall be determined by council and will not be incorporated into the land use schedule. And where the land use boundary are considered as absolute, the location of the boundary is not open to interpretation. So basically, it's left to interpretation if the boundary is not coinciding with either road or a railway or something defined. So those that we're talking about is basically looking for I have this here. So one of the point that were brought forward by the submission is this one here. So this is a plan of subdivision that was identified. It's not approved. It's part of it had been through a public process, I would say in 2015. And there's some of the lots that are proposed to be outside of the village boundary, but like I said, it was approved by the county as a draft approved. It's not final approved, because as you can see, the line of the boundary is right here, so it doesn't coincide with any of, so that's why it's permitted at those locations, for example. Those are the best location to show.
So how much land are we talking about, Madame Tremblay?
So the number of, I'm just going to switch slide, next slide. So there's another example on La Belle. So La Belle is here, and I know it's not clear, but as you can see, the road, and there's some lots that are coming out of the boundary. But technically, again, this is not set in stone because we have the flexibility, which is not defined, but is approved by the township council and is approved by the county. So those subdivisions were all part of a public process. It was approved by our council, the county council. And as you can see, there's some here that are kind of sitting in between the line of the village boundary. So if we could zoom out maybe a bit.
So if I understand properly, in those instances, it's essentially the road was within the village boundary, and we simply allowed to build across the street as opposed to leaving across the street an empty field.
Even some of the lots are half and half, some in and some out. So basically, you see the total of what we calculated. So just in those are Amber and Russell. Yeah. So we've calculated 85. In the submission, you see more than 85 because the pond was considered outside the village boundary, and their calculation included if you were to build the pond at that location, then you would lose some extra lots. So therefore would justify the boundary village increase. So those are when you refer the submission of the total of lots, it's basically based on this policy that says that you could do minor adjustment without being considered boundary extension. You don't need to amend the plan, and it's left to council to decide if they agree with it or not. If I just may add, the pond in Russell, the only reason why it was located at this is that, yes, the builder take into consideration that at one point the village boundary will increase on the west side, and therefore, I won't talk for Mr. Collin, but we prefer to have one pond than two. So this pond was tragically located at this place to have one pond for the entire subdivision instead of having two ponds if, let's say, it would become that it increased at this side.
And the developer knows this full well, that those lands aren't in the village boundaries, and they might only be 20, 30, 40, whatever down the road.
Yeah, so basically you see what we're talking about here. So the pond location is completely outside the village boundaries. The line where this is not working. So the line right in the middle is where the village boundary limits is. The west side is what's being proposed in the future. And that's why the pond was located at that location, to make sure that we would have one pond compared to two if we were to obligate them to have the pond, which again, we don't have any policies, so it was confirmed with the county official plan and the county planner that there's no regulation about not having ponds in ag land. So therefore, there's nothing that the county are gonna impose. There's nothing in our official plan that would force them to have the pond inside the boundary. So therefore, in our account of lots that are outside, they're not outside, but that we took the minor adjustment boundary into consideration is 85 lots.
Okay. Conseiller Lorrain?
And when we get these documents at council, it clearly says that that we are approving this outside of the boundaries, so the council knows that we were increasing by X amount of lots every time we see one of these, because I don't remember hearing or seeing something that talked about going outside of the village boundary. It was just approve this. Like you said, yeah, we've approved it, it's already approved, or it's going to be approved or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't ever remember hearing, well, this is being approved outside of the boundaries, just so you know, we've increased our residential growth by, let's say this one's 8 units, the other one's 12 units, the other one's 15 units. I don't remember seeing anything like that. Is that something that I missed?
No, I'm gonna say the answer.
Dis-le.
Okay, so I wasn't here for La Belle, and I wasn't here for most of those subdivision, and the ones that you see on St. Thomas are still draft approved. So I'll take your comment, and if I do prepare a report to council at that point, I'll mention it. But those that are already existing, I wasn't part of the process.
Because I'm just worried about, we want people to be able to have land to develop at some point in time.
Yeah.
But if some point in time is never to be defined, because all of the other people that have their land continue to move outwards, and we approve those lands, well, now because all the infrastructure's there, let's just keep moving that way instead of going that way or that way. I just find it, how do we get people to invest in our community that way when there doesn't seem to be hope? And the property may, whether it's this property or the 30 acres or whatever, and those properties may never be suitable to build. Okay, and I understand that. I'm just saying, how do we prevent the continuous growth that to these boundaries?
Merci, conseiller Lorrain. Madame Tremblay?
It does say minor, so it needs to be minor. And to be fair, I don't think that 85 lots would have justified any increase at any point. And I get your point that if we keep doing that, but at the same time, I believe that the administration will keep applying this rule by saying that it's a minor adjustment. So there's not a lot of it, as it may seem, it seems like we have a lot of flexibility, but it still needs to be minor adjustment. And most of them are really minor in my opinion. But at the same time, I'll take your point into consideration, and then we'll bring those, and we'll mention that it's outside, and we do use that policy to say that it's a minor adjustment. And then it's going to be left to council to agree with the proposed subdivision or not.
Thank you.
Merci, Madame Tremblay. We're catching in on 6 o'clock. I think there's lots of discussion left on this file. Up to council, either we keep going on this one or we come back after the next meeting. But this is something that, with the timeline that's in front of us, that we have to deal with tonight. So, Councillor Associate?
Are we having a question period on this part?
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's people that are here, so we might as well continue to go forward with this. Conseiller Lorrain?
When you say after the next meeting,
After tonight's evening.
Tonight's meeting, like
Yes.
Later tonight?
Yes.
No, I'll do it now.
Okay.
My opinion.
Okay.
The people that are here for this.
Perfect.
I wouldn't want them to come back.
Okay. So we'll continue dans 20 minutes que la prochaine réunion va commencer une fois qu'on finit celle-là. Okay. Monsieur le Duc.
Although we do have a still presentation that people are coming in for a check presentation, so we take 5 minutes at one point in time. So whenever they're here, then you want to, so you could, I don't know how you want to do it.
Yeah, well, technically we have to suspend this meeting, open the other meeting, suspend the other meeting. As much as I like receiving a check, I think at this point in time it's not a photo op we need. We have to keep going with this subject. So I apologize if there's a delay, but we'll have to continue along this meeting at this point in time. Je peux continuer, Madame Tremblay? On va continuer avec la réunion ici, so s'il y avait d'autres commentaires, tu voulais adresser?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've received that comment and we didn't discuss. We did discuss, but it was not something that I felt at this point. But if it's something that council would consider, then I believe that one of the points when you do the comprehensive review, you need to justify that it's either serviceable and how it's going to be serviced, and if it's possible to service it. And one of the property that we're requesting to be added, I don't know if Mr. Colin, if you want to mention that some of the infrastructure existing needs to be evaluated to be sure that it would be serviceable.
And again, we're talking about the 30
Yeah.
acres listed in this.
On ED Road, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Cullen?
Can we show the plan of Coronelli subdivision plan? The full plan of Russell.
The other one. Yeah, this one.
So what you see in the yellow area, which is the growth area, all the infrastructure has been put in place to develop that area, 1,800 units. So the pumping station is located there, all the water main, the stormwater plant, everything's been designed to include that 1,800 units. So when Madame Tremblay talks about the number of units that are available to be serviced, the limitation is there. To answer your question, Councillor. In other words, you can't develop outside those areas because you don't have the capacity or you don't have the infrastructure to develop those areas. So in this case here, the master plan that was completed last year, the council approved, identified that you had 1,800 units of growth within that yellow area, and that's the infrastructure that's in place to be able to service those areas. as well as to collect development charges, so on, so, for those areas. So that was just to answer your question, it was earlier there.
Councillor Lorrain?
So then where does the capacity come when people creep over into village, when they extend the village boundary? Where does that capacity come from?
There is no extension there.
Well, we just talked about 85 units.
Yeah, but not in that area. So in those